My guests today are director Chris Johnson and writer, producer, actor Michelle Draper and their short film Green. Now, at a very young age, Michelle Draper realized that performing could be a job. Now, upon venturing west, she found her way into a small group of artists known as the Actors Gym. Helmed by Bobby Moresco, the group workshops new writing as well as performance pieces. It was here that Michelle became enamored with the storytelling process. Though Michelle has worked on many projects since arriving in Los Angeles, her new short film Green marks her first substantial move into the role of writer and producer. Now, director Chris Johnson is the co owner of Cineatra Media, an LA based production company, and he first picked up a video camera as a teenager to make skate videos and ended up turning it into a lifelong passion and a full time career. Their short film Green is an official selection at the Holly Shorts Film Festival this year. So let's welcome director Chris Johnson, writer, producer, and actor Michelle Draper to the show. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And well, Michelle, I want to kick it off with you because you're the writer of the script for Green. Where did the idea come from?
Um, a couple of things. I think it was right kind of coming out of the pandemic, and I really wanted to do something, but wanted to do something a little minimalist, with just a couple of people. And when I started kind of thinking in that vein, the opening kind of shot, what you see was just this kind of opening image in my mind, and kind of the question of, oh, but how do they get there? And it kind of unraveled or raveled from there, and just kind of diving more into these people and some kind of dark lore that's partially based in reality and other parts made up. And but that, yeah, it was just a lot of fun to kind of discover it that way. That isn't always how I write, but this one came that way.
Well, for an 8 minute film, I found it to be extremely complete.
Oh,
Beginning to
thank you.
end, and it kind of leaves us with I want more. So, Chris, when you read the script, what possessed you to direct it?
Yeah, I have worked with Michelle on a couple of pieces, her writing, developing pieces that she's written, and this one stood out especially because there are so many different aspects to this that I could see visually when reading it. Of just the elements of the characters who are. In love with each other to begin, and when she goes through that transformation, I have a recurring dream, and it's just the oh my god, what have I done? And without spoiling too much, the film opens with Michelle's character very much so in a situation of oh my god, what have I done? And I could deeply relate with that. So that feeling to start out on, I think, is a great place to jump off from, and it only gets wilder from there.
It does. And I love the fact that in this film, you knew how to do the flashback sequences correctly. Because I've seen other short films where the flashbacks can get confusing. And sometimes they put too much into a flashback to where you're trying to figure out the timeline. But this one was seamless. And so I appreciated that very much.
Yeah, that was
Well,
aided
I
by the
I
fact.
appreciate. Yeah,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Michelle.
No, I was just going to say I appreciated. We had a lot of conversations about that because we wanted to make sure that the flashback wasn't just a crutch for not, wanting to dive into the storytelling. And kind of where we landed is that it very much was kind of a character in the film, in essence, like a way of traveling through the story. Um, so yeah, but yes, Chris, I want to hear what you have to say.
I was going to say that in post, Michelle and I found ourselves talking a lot about I believe it's the Kolshov effect of there's an old filmmaker, they would show just a blank face and the audience would be polled, what is this guy feeling? What is he thinking? And then they would show, okay, just a blank face and then cut it with an empty plate. And all of a sudden, the responses came back, and they were, "Oh, he's hungry. He's sad that he doesn't have any food." they were projecting all these things onto the image based on how it was cut. And we found ourselves talking about the flashbacks in how they relate to the present and how the flashbacks enhance the story in the present and directly connect to the story in the present. And they're not just used as clues for the audience.
Yeah, the thing about Green is this film is so tight, and that the flashbacks are actually present day, present time. So you're not doing a film where you're thinking back 5 years, 10 years. It's like, this is the moment. This is the 8-minute moment. But it packs a punch. And so I actually had to do a little bit of extra research from this film because I had never heard of the green light or the green flash. Uh, I had to look it up, but I thought it was so unique. So, Michelle, where did you get the idea, or where did you learn about the green flash?
Well, first of all, I wear that very proudly because I feel like I've introduced a lot of people I'm finding to the green flash. It is something I learned about a while ago, and kind of something I always am chasing to see in my own life. But it came when I was kind of like figuring out the mythology, if you will, of this thing that happens to her, and kind of like what sparks it and how is that connected to how it behaves and all of that. And Chris and I had a lot of conversations about, we called it like the rules of how this thing works, because even if you don't talk about it directly or explain it in the film, it enhances every choice you make and how you're going to make the film, and kind of when questions come up, which direction you're going to go. So yeah, but I've always been fascinated with kind of world phenomena
Well,
like that.
in the film, was the green flash added in post, or did you really capture it at sunset?
And no, and I'll let Chris talk a little bit about the sunset. But yeah, it was definitely in post. It looks a little different in real life, but we wanted to make sure you saw it.
Well, it looked real.
Thank you. He did come. Chris was like, just so you know, this is probably going to be one of the hardest parts, is the filming when a sunset is a part of the story. And I was like, what do you mean? It'll be fine. It'll be
Well,
beautiful lighting.
yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Chris, because you directed Green, and with a camera shot behind both husband and wife looking at the sunset, was there any challenges of actually capturing that particular sunset in real time?
Yeah, so that was by far the most difficult setup that we have, because playing with the sun in real time, obviously we had to get the shot from behind them to show the sunset, and we wanted to play that right down to sort of the last minute because we needed it for the flash. But then we also needed to shoot it from the reverse side to see the reaction, because the light changes so dramatically from the last moment in sunset to afterwards in golden hour. So that was the first shoot day that we had, and I remember vividly sort of setting up for it, watching the clock, watching the sun, and just rushing every piece towards it. We set the first camera so that we had the behind shot, and then we shot the reverse on the same line of 180 and made sure that we couldn't see the B camera shooting from behind in the background. So that was one continuous setup. And then I had my B camera operator at the last second, once the sun had disappeared, grab that camera, come around and set it up extremely quickly between setups, and do pick off singles so that we had some coverage to cut in between. But yeah, it was frantic. And I do remember Alan Steele, our other fantastic cast member, and Michelle just sort of going back and forth and saying, okay, what are we doing here? What should we do differently? And I'm running around frantically. We don't have time. We don't have time. We're just going to go. Do it better. Go.
Wow. I mean, with the two different camera setups, and I know this is a technical question, were the f-stops completely different?
They were different. And with the shot from behind, we wanted to play that a little bit softer so that you didn't have as much detail in the sunset, so that you couldn't tell exactly when the sun had shown its last piece. If we had stopped that down a bunch, we would have gotten the sun in crisper detail, so you would have been able to tell the exact moment it disappeared. But since we had to play with that a little bit and massage those timelines, we wanted to make sure that at least the one shooting from the back angle was soft on the sunset, so that we could play a little fast and loose with that timing.
Yeah, shooting at dusk, I find it difficult because
Yeah.
the lighting is changing so fast. And of course, as you're out there in the desert filming a sunset, you can literally watch the sun going down by the second.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we
So
had to Yeah, we put up an extra light just so that we could get as many shots of the performance as possible. So there are a couple of shots in there, especially after the transformation moment, that are lighting setup as opposed to actual sunlight, and that was difficult too, trying to control the deep blues behind our actors as the light got lower and lower.
and of course, you do all the color correction and post anyway, but it came across absolutely seamless and actually comes across as one big shot all at one time. But I was listening to the dialogue at that moment. And I replayed it a few times because the husband was so excited to share this moment with his wife because she had never heard of the green flash, had never seen it or paid attention to it. But then he says something. He said it's a symbol of purification and justice. And I got to
Mm,
thinking about that line, but it really opens up a whole other conversation, doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, that's like the one, there's that, and I think one other line that just kind of tips its hand a little bit to some of the mythology, like I said, that we kind of talked about, and again, some of it rooted in reality, and others enhanced, because there's a lot of legend, as you know, kind of cultures across the world attached to these phenomena on earth, and kind of what they mean, and what they represent. And so we just kind of went along with one of those and kind of enhanced it, and it was fun to play because, again, it's not anything that's explicitly explained in the film, but Chris and I, every time we'd have a hiccup, or kind of like, oh, what should we do at this point? Well, what would this thing do because of this other stuff we laid out? It all kind of felt like a really cool detective story at times, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, when in the scene when they're both in the car and they're driving to their destination, it's that conversation that you really have to listen to. It comes across as light, comes across as a bit flippant, maybe a little bit of deflection, especially from the husband. So, why did you want to explore a bit on the spirit of jealousy?
Um, it's interesting because I'm not sure that was the hard intent. I think that is definitely mixed in there, but this is kind of a beautiful thing that happens that I'm getting to experience for the first time as a filmmaker who's, kind of gone all the way through. I feel like Chris has a few projects under his belt, and I felt really confident in walking down this road. But for me, I'm just kind of learning this, where you kind of put all of this work and heart and intention into making the story and thinking out all the deep crevices of the story. And then you kind of release it. And so there's the writer who has that interpretation. And then the director comes along and they're kind of like, ooh, I read this and this is kind of what I think. And that molds the story a little bit. And then kind of the last bit of that is releasing it to the audience. And then they kind of pull what they do through their own life experience. And that's been really fascinating to watch. But circling back to specifically jealousy, I think that was an aspect, but it was also kind of like, um, what something that could also mislead a little bit, you know? It could be that, could be this, which
Well,
is also kind of what I like about the story, kind of
well, and
open-ended.
that's what I kept looking at because you're looking at the green flash. You're looking at the title of the film. You see this interchange inside the car between husband and wife, which is actually going on an anniversary trip, so she's expecting a lot, but she brings something up about his work. And that's when I'm like, what do we have here? But then you kind of throw us for a loop because you actually turned this film into a bit of a sci-fi thriller, didn't you?
I mean, I hope so. Yeah.
Maybe a little horror.
Yeah, a little dashes like pepper. Just a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Well, Chris, how did you take all those elements to find a balance?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are so many different pieces to this film to hone in on, and I think that's something we worked a lot through the script writing process. Is just making sure that we were pulling the parts that we most identified with, the parts that would make the best story, and that is so much of this film was taking the assets that we had and finding the best way to utilize them. So, we knew we had this desert setting. We had gone and rented an Airbnb and got permission from the owners to shoot there. And they had a giant bathtub, and they had, a really, really cool guest house. And so we used all these elements and sort of staged based off the locations of, okay, we can pull this part here, we can put this part here. And that element of lining all of the physical assets we had up with the story elements was really rewarding.
Well, on this film particularly, did you storyboard it or was it a shot list?
We did both. And I'm a big fan of doing both. I find turning a script from a living, breathing story into a technical document to be really rewarding, and I think it's something that oftentimes screenwriters, especially earlier in their careers, might forget that you don't want to write a great script; you want to make a great movie, and changing a script over to a movie is a translation of sorts. So working with that, and we also, watched a lot of other short films. We used a lot of pieces of reference, and especially when working with such a brilliant actor and writer as Michelle, it's you want to make sure that everybody's making the same movie. And especially in a short film where you have such a small window, you have to be speaking the language that the audience already knows. So you have to use shorthands of, examples like her using the skewers for the kebabs, of her stabbing something, just small details like that to give the audience hints. They're coming in completely blind with no marketing, with no, forethought of what kind of film this is. And you really have to let them know up front. So that element of front loading the cinematic language to make sure that the audience is on the same ride is sort of a mirror relationship to making sure that everybody's making the same movie when we're going into it.
With Michelle's character, when I kept watching the film over and over again, and the great thing is because it's 8 minutes long, you can watch it multiple times. and
I'm
but with
honored you did.
yeah, and with Michelle's character, I kept looking. I was kept watching it over and over again, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. It's not that. Yeah, in the car ride, she's kind of bringing up, and there's a little hint that she could be showing some jealousy. But the more I kept watching the film, and especially after the whole sunset sequence, I'm thinking, maybe there's a third actor in this film, which is really the Green Flash, and I guess in a way it becomes a possession of sorts for her.
Mm. Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
close?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely there. It's it,
And see,
you
but see,
know,
here's the
like I
thing
said,
about her. She wasn't expecting it because she
hmm
wasn't, she knew what she said in the car, but she wasn't like anchoring that emotion. She brought it up, you know,
hmm
um, but then this whole other sequence, but then she becomes possessed by the very thing, or I would should say the spirit behind what she said. So I'm like, this is interesting, and I loved it.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
there's. Sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
please. No, I was just gonna say, it's I was just listening to Chris answer the last question there, and I was like, man, that is why it was so cool to walk down this road with him, because I feel like in a lot of ways we're on the same plane creatively, but also just kind of yin and yang in some certain other aspects. And trust, it's like confidence in the people you're working with is so important. It sounds cliche, but the Alan Steele, we've mentioned him before, the other actor plays my husband in this. Um, he's somebody I've known for a while, and he's an uber talented writer and actor himself. And when he agreed to come on, it just felt like a deep, decompression of, can settle into it because you just trust that they're going to have your back. And so you aren't worried, because I was a bit worried, producing this thing and kind of looking at everything and seeing everything that would be going wrong. And man, I'm not going to be able to do my job. But these guys were so 100% there and so talented that it just made all of that float away on the day of, and I'm super grateful for that. But it does make you remember, you're like, oh, that isn't a cliche thing. You really do want to trust the people you're working with.
And Chris,
Yeah, it's and speaking to that last comment about the sunset and what these characters are going through. One thing that I just sort of thought about sitting here, it's the thing that he wanted to share with her that leads to her breakdown, possession, psychosis, however you want to categorize the affliction. And the thing that I find interesting about that is that it's a metaphor for a relationship where these two people were trying to reconcile, trying to stay on the path of cooperation. The scene in the car sort of lets you know that things aren't all hunky dory and sunshine. And as it goes along, it's just two people who are bringing out the worst in each other by accident. All they're trying to do is share with each other, and all they keep uncovering is hurtful truths. So, yeah, it's fun revisiting a story even after you've completed it and seeing that there are other parts to it that are there subconsciously or that you didn't even see. But
and I hear this from filmmakers when that film comes out of post and it's finished, and they go back to watch it a few times, they start seeing another story
Mm,
evolve out of it. Because, and you're right, if you watch the scene in the car, because to me that is a very very vital scene in this film, because
mm,
they're taking an anniversary trip in a way, and like you alluded to, Chris, they're trying to fan the flames again. They're trying to get that spark back. And so this little quip that she brings up kind of gives you the secret that, not everything's perfect in paradise. But what I loved about this film, and Michelle, you were right. I love minimal actors. I love seeing
mm,
films if it's just one person. I love seeing films when it's only two people. And I love minimum dialogue because you allow the emotion, the facial expressions, the movement and the action to tell the rest of the story. And of course, it's the camera work that also plays into that. And this film has all those elements. So I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, if you tell somebody if somebody says, I'm not insecure, they're insecure. If they say they're not prideful, they have pride. If they say they're not jealous, they're jealous. And that's the thing that I picked up in this film. We can say those things, but deep down, that seed is there. But is that seed going to take root? And in a way, when I saw this, and if we pick the emotion of jealousy, there are people that just go into a complete blind rage. We have seen cases where someone goes, I don't know what happened. I don't remember a thing, and I have no idea how I got here. And that's what green is.
Yeah. She does not know how she got there. And there are
Yeah.
terrible things that happened.
Yeah, and
Agreed.
but here is your magic in this film. When people sit in a theater to watch it, they're in 8 minutes. They some people will have their conclusion at the end. There'll be others who will have their own different conclusion, and then others like me are going to sit there and go, "I want more," because this is almost a film that could have some elements of a feature.
Yeah, I
Are you thinking
love,
of a feature?
I mean, I do have kind of an outline diving more into that dark lore that is behind it all. But I absolutely love when people are conflicted in the best way. You know, not confused because everybody's like got off the ride and they're like, I don't understand what just happened. But when people are like, "Oh yeah, I get this and this is what I think about it." And another person is like, "Oh yeah, I get it and this is what I think about it." I don't know. I just to me it's that is super gratifying because that's some of my favorite art is when everybody walks away with kind of a different experience.
Now, is Holly Shorts your absolute premiere for the film, or has this film been shown at another festival?
It's been shown around. It's kind of coming around, I think, to its kind of end of this part of the process. But yes, it premiered last year at a really cool little genre festival called Panic Fest in Kansas City, Missouri.
So,
So
what
yeah.
kind of response have you gotten to the film, and what kind of questions have the audience asked you?
Well, a lot of what we've talked about, you know, where there's a lot of people kind of like, oh, she's jealous, and that's tell me more about that. And I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. You got that aspect. And then other people kind of more into the possession and like, oh, what did this line mean? Um, and I think it's been really cool as well because it's played at part genre festivals and part just kind of straight film festivals. And even so much as it played in this other shorts festival, but wasn't placed in a horror block. It was placed in just kind of this, I would say, emotional block. Just kind of these people going through emotional journeys. So even film festivals have kind of are coming out on the other end of like, ooh, this is what I think about the film, you know. And people are divided on that. So it's been kind of a really cool experience in that way. But there is a lot of I want more, and to me, that's the best compliment we could get.
Well, when I looked at the time code, because it really comes out to be 7 minutes 59 seconds, and I kept thinking, because this film and a lot of short films that are under 10 minutes, some of them don't have the correct arc, and you have the arc. Uh, and then some films they fall into that category because if you watch them, you're like, is this proof of concept? But when I saw
Mm.
Green, I'm like, it doesn't look like a proof of concept, which I liked because it looked like a complete film to me. But it kind of leaves the door open, like you just said, to explore this whole phenomenon, to explore the characters in a much longer format. And so with Holly shorts, what category have they placed you in?
We're in with the genre kids. We're in the Midnight Madness. So, and I gotta say, I have never met a more enthusiastic group of film goers than genre people. They will show up at midnight, they will cheer, they will clap. Uh, it is a roller coaster watching films with them, and I have grown to love it immensely.
Well,
So
Chris, what do you
I'm
love about
excited.
this film so much?
There are so many things I love about this film. It's really hard as a director to go back and watch the film. I always feel like I can't see the forest for the trees. So when I watch the film, the things that I see are Michelle's dedication and craft, and how she willed this into existence from the writing and pre-production stages through production.
Mm.
It was, I think that my big takeaway from the production aspect of it was it felt like summer camp. And the best films tend to do that. We went to a secluded place out in the Joshua Tree Desert, and we had such a small crew, but everybody was extremely experienced, really, really good at what they do, and everybody was there for the experience of making the film. And that to me is from the production side, the lasting legacy for me was, God, it was just so much fun. And
Mhm.
I think despite the heavy material nature of the film, I hope that element shines through. Because again, we had such good actors between Michelle and Alan Steele, who is a very generous actor. He let us cover him in blood and lay on the ground and dealt with the ants and being dragged
Firing.
and
Yeah.
running and falling into a stunt pad in the dark. And there was one moment in the driving, because it's a low budget film, we did not have the means to get a process trailer. So we shot with a car mount, just a hostess tray rig, and we flopped it from each side. And that was the last day of shooting. Everybody else had gone home. So it was literally just the three of us. I was pulling focus and running sound in the back seat, tucked behind the driver's side chair. And Michelle and Alan would act the scene, and we would just drive back and forth on this strip. And in order to make sure that the sun was on the right side, we would run a lap. So we'd go one way out and come one way back in, and we would flip flop which side of the scene we're shooting based on where we were on the road. And right when we head out, Alan's driving, we get through the scene once, and he comes to a stop sign. He sort of stops short, and we look, we're like, everything okay? He's like, I completely forgot I was driving. He said, I was so in the scene that I was just barely here as the driver, who said, okay, let's take it a step back. Let's make sure we get through the scene while remembering you're driving. But yes, just the whole experience was so positive and so fantastic. And it's such a joy working
Yeah.
with Michelle, and she has such a strong voice in the piece. The whole thing was a blast.
Well, that's a Spielberg move because that's what he did in Duel. Because he said I only had so much budget to work with, but because we had to make sure that the chase scenes between Dennis Weaver and the tractor trailer rig matched, he had to shoot it in opposite directions and then figure it out in post on how to make it look like they were only going in one direction. So I love hearing stories like that because that's just the magic of movie making. And Alan Steele was fantastic as the husband in this film, and I really want to see him uh, in other projects because he is a great actor. And
Yeah.
you know, yeah, and so
Us too.
yeah, I
More
know.
Alan Steele in
Well,
the world.
well, I was going to ask you, Michelle, because with Chris directing, what did you learn from Chris that may make you want to sit in the director's chair?
Well, I think a couple of things, because I am going to be directing the next piece I do. But it was it was an education. Thank you. I'll need more of that in the coming weeks. um, but I think every actor should have to be on the production side of a project when they're having to take the whole story and, stake their name on it, because a couple of things happen. You get out of, well, hopefully you get out of your own way, but you also get humbled in the best ways. And there were a couple of specific moments that we were shooting something, and Chris would be, one of which was the opening shot, and I did what I felt was the most authentic acting of, waking up. But because the frame is so close, it was way too much. So he told me, he's like, maybe you just lose the forehead a little bit and try a little bit of this. And I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, well, he's not right, but I'll do it anyway. Um, because it felt very like, I know, like, this is what waking up really feels and looks like. So anyway, I did it. And then, as you know, on the other side of it, doing the production side of it and having to watch through all of the dailies, um, all of the takes that I thought I was doing the best acting, um, it was horrible. It was like, it's not that it was bad, but it's that I didn't understand the frame. And I'm not even talking about the exact frame, but just kind of like, how are we telling this story right now? And in this particular moment, it's super up close. So everything you do reads like an exaggeration. Um, so yeah, there was that, and there was another moment where I was like, after the kind of possession, um, I wanted to walk fast. He's like, let's try it slow. And I was like, again, in my head, I was like, well, I'll do it, but I know it's not right.
Well,
And sure enough, watch those dailies. And I was like, damn it, he was totally right. But also in a fun way. I mean, I play, but I did really feel confident in, you know, um, just the kind of team we had together. And even speaking to the summer camp situation, um, it was crazy. Our makeup artist, her car broke down like the day before she was supposed to drive out from San Diego. And she calls me and, she says, hey, my car broke down. Is it all right if my mom brings me? And I was, well, in my head, I was like, well, that could be bad, but, we need her. So her mom comes out. Her mom is this completely awesome cheerleader, but also giving a shit. And she ended up being such an integral part. She was like the mom. She got a credit as mom of production. And then partway through the filming, she goes out and gets us ingredients for chocolate chip cookies. And I have never seen so many grown men revert to 5-year-olds at that warm chocolate chip cookies being brought around. It was just that kind of environment the whole way through. Everybody kind of showing up in that way, and it was awesome.
I love that. Chocolate chip cookies is my kryptonite. So yeah, yeah. You turn instantly into a 5-year old, but that's okay. And so for both of you, now I know Michelle, you're working on your next project. Chris, what are you working on next?
There are a couple different things that we have in pre-production. We have a couple of short films. So Michelle and I belong to a group called the Actors Gym, and it was founded, God, in the 70s, I believe, by a guy named Bobby Moresco, and he wrote Crash and Million Dollar Baby. And so it's about half actors, half writers, and some multi-hats. And the writers bring in 10 pages, and the actors do cold reads of it. And then we sit down and we talk about what works, what didn't work. And that now is going on in New York and LA. They have two different gyms. And so as a director, it's been fantastic because I constantly have a raft of short films coming through that I'm working on in pre-production with people and actors who are making their own things. things. So there are a bunch of different pieces coming out of the Actors Gym in LA that I'm super excited about, and hope to be involved in any way possible. And sort of a bunch of young filmmakers who I always tell them, however I can help, I'm more than happy to consult. If you need gear, we're owner operators. We just like playing in the sandbox of short films, and it's anything we can do to keep that medium healthy, especially in Los Angeles, where there's such a rich pool of talent. So yeah, we're working on a bunch of different things at the moment, but none in production at the moment. So it's quite relaxing trying to figure out what the next move is.
I love that. And for you, Michelle?
Yeah, I have a project that I would love to do. It is going to take a lot more resources than I currently have. So the next thing I'm going to do is probably do a crowdfunding for that. But yeah, Chris and I have been talking about that. That's one of the things, hopefully, on his docket. But yeah, it's just exciting to be in a group of filmmakers and just kind of go at it regardless of what anybody says.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're in the midnight block at Holly Shorts because you will have a full theater.
Yeah.
And because to me, I think the best time to be is probably between 7 and midnight in the blocks because
Mm.
everybody's there. And I love the fact that Holly Shorts focuses on the evening, so that way the theaters are full, and then that way when it comes for the Q&A, you'll have a lot of things to say and get a lot of feedback from the audience. So you can't beat that. So I can't wait to
Hmm.
see what happens. So and I'm not
Thank you.
voting in that block, by the way.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. So I'm voting in the Kodak 35 millimeter.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say
All right.
this, it was not exactly an easy category.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that one actually.
Yeah. Yeah. There's artistic versions, and then there are
Mm.
those that are so complete you're like, "Oh, we're going to have to keep an eye on this one." So, it's going to be an interesting block, but ladies and gentlemen, I will say this. Green is a short film where a woman wakes up in the desert holding a bloody knife lying next to a dead body. Now, she has no idea how she got there until memories of the past 24 hours start to rise to the surface. Now, I could see Green as a future feature film where jealousy becomes a sci fi cosmic force that wreaks havoc among the unlucky or those standing in the way. Now, for a film that is 8 minutes in length, it keeps your attention and wastes no time getting to the point. No pun intended. Now, Green is an official selection at this year's Holly Shorts Film Festival, and if you are attending, it's the midnight block. Make sure you stay there, get in that audience, and watch the film Green. You're going to be like me. You're going to be deciphering this film, breaking it down in your mind, and then you're going to be begging for more. And I'm sure that this film will get great reviews. So I want to thank
Mhm.
both of you, Michelle and Chris, for sharing Green with me today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Yeah, you. Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I just, yeah, laughing.
Well, I love it, and much success to both of you with the film Green and your future projects. And ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bond on Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime show, our YouTube channel, and of course, you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, and Audible, and more. So I want to thank you for watching because you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.